I'm not finished yet.
They're gonna find you, Luthen.
You act as if we had a choice. Eventually they'll hang us both, won't they? We set that course the first time we met.
Speak for yourself.
Greetings. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Heroes Peak podcast. I am your host, Chris, and we are here with my good friends, Mike and James. How you doing, guys? What are we up to?
Losing money on sports betting. That's what I'm doing. Every
You
team
can't
that
watch what you bet on.
I
cannot.
know. Apologies to all the Celtics fans, the Knicks fans, the Nuggets fans, other
And all
teams
the
recently.
Deidre fans. I
Golden
know you
State
had her going all the
Warriors.
way, but,
Yes.
you know.
Yes, I apologize. If I put money on it, even $2, it's disaster. It's, what did Vision say? Catastrophe.
Mike, how's summer treating you upstate?
Pretty good. I don't have much snow too much snow to shovel tonight.
You
It's only
still
about
got
6
your
inches.
winter beard action going on here.
That's right. I'll trim this in July when it's our actual summer.
First
So.
light of Ray comes all of a sudden.
That's right.
Yeah, we've got almost 75 today, so we're doing pretty okay. All right, so we're gonna hit right to it. Today we are talking Andor season 2, the final season of the Disney Plus series, obviously released this year. We're right on the cusp. Just finished it off. The 4th week of 3-episode releases. There was no waiting, no long term. Just right to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, done. And then everybody go watch Rogue One. Now, if they were smart, they would have re-released Rogue One into the theaters this week. But, you know, these CEOs, I don't know how they get these jobs.
Real quick, Chris, and I know I'm the one that's always asking to be tight on time, but quick story, Sandra, friend of the podcast, my sister who watched the show live with me, was like, when is season 3 coming out? I'm like,
oh, no!
It's available on your Disney Plus. It should come up right in the upper right. What do you see? She goes, I see Rogue One. I was like, there you go.
There you are.
Episodes 1, 2, and 3 of the next of Andor season 3.
Sorry, but go ahead.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't want spoilers, I don't know why you're watching, but please pause, watch, come back. Probably watch Rogue One. We're probably going to spoil that if you didn't see that 10 years ago.
And A New Hope, probably.
And A New Hope, we might spoil that one as well. All Star Wars is up for grabs at this point. But, so this is what we're going to do today. We are not going to break down scene for scene. We're not going to give you the Easter eggs of every single thing that appeared in the background of Luthen's shop. There's just too much to talk about with this show. There's a lot. We could do a couple of episodes with this. And actually, I wouldn't mind doing a Sandra episode too.
Ooh, I'll let her know.
But there are so many off-ramps to this discussion. And we don't have unlimited time here. So today we are just going to tackle some choices and some story choices and some characters that I found particularly interesting. And of course, all of that will lead to little discussion side pieces as we get through that. And Mike, you can cue little Nemec's The Pace of Oppression quote if you wanted at this point. Because there's just a lot here. So let's just get right into it. We're talking spoilers Andor the whole way, season 1 and 2. So the first one point of my discussion here is I want to talk to you guys, because I found this really interesting this season. There were a lot more of these quiet deaths and a lot more pointless deaths this season. Like specifically, you're looking at Luthen, Cyril, Partagaz, Brasso, Cinta, the spy. Like
Lonnie.
all of these people like either died off scene or died not in big action sequences, no explosions. You know, a lot of the action sequence didn't end up with any good guys dying. They actually got away a lot of that time. You know? So I found it super interesting choices here, and I don't know if there's a specific death you want to start with, but the overall idea of the pointless death or the quiet death this season was great.
Yeah,
I
I'm
would
go
say,
ahead,
I
Mike.
would say
Mm-hmm.
we should probably start with one of the most important. That'd be Luthen
Mm-hmm.
dying in the hospital.
God damn,
That
you went
was
straight
key.
there. I was gonna give a moose boosh with Lonnie killed by Luthen.
Nah,
Sorry,
man, this is a buffet. Dig in.
That's right. That's
all
right.
right. Say less. Say
So
less.
what I love about Luthen's death, they decided at this point, one of the only times besides Andor himself, to give us a flashback between Luthen and um,
Claire.
Clea, and find out why, kind of why Luthen is doing this. Even if you don't get his full life, you get the important bits, and that he was actually an Imperial soldier, and he just broke from hearing the slaughter.
He broke good.
He broke good
Mm-hmm.
instead of breaking bad. He broke good. So, and then what a amazing, probably one of the best scenes of the series is here. Clea has to infiltrate herself back into the hospital to finish off him. And so like, what part of that did you guys love the most? The silence. She didn't say any lines. The flashbacks. The just infiltration of it, the cool spy stuff of it. Like there's so much going on in that scene, set of scenes.
Let me start first, Mike, if you don't mind. I think it was written, directed, and executed well by the actors and actresses in that sequence. And as just a technical part, let's get that out the way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that means to the overall story and narrative, and what we've learned from Luthen, particularly episode 10, I believe, or 11, that was dedicated to his backstory, is that once he broke good, he was all in on the cause. He was all in to the point where, unlike Mamatha and the formalized rebellion, he understood the dirty guerrilla tactics that would have to take place in order to topple the empire. However, he understood that it wasn't bigger than him, right? So he knew at some point if they were ever to get caught, and there's so many instances of him having this conversation with Claire, who ultimately has to be the one to take him out. And season one and season two, where they're always at the precipice of if things go south. She goes, "What if it's a trap? If it's a trap, we're already done for, right?"
Right.
So I thought it was perfect that once he met with Lonnie, and then Lonnie dies quietly, whatever, on the park bench, sad. He knew that this was it, and my belief is that he re recalibrated, calibrate their sequence and their plan because they must have had a plan in case things went awry.
Well, they met on the stairs, and he told Clea that
Yes,
he would take care of it instead of her.
correct. Which I think was not probably because she would look confused. I
Mm-hmm.
think the plan would normally under normal situations would have been like for her to take care of the radio communications self destruct button and for him to. But I think he realized although they planned for this moment, he couldn't go through it and have her possibly be compromised. He'd rather be the one himself be compromised. So he
Mm-hmm.
sent her on the dummy mission and went on to go back. And he didn't look that surprised when Dedra walked in. And it
Mm-hmm.
is a and I had to rewatch this a couple times and then obviously online content. When Dedra says, "Is anything here real in your shop?" And he goes, "Well, there's two things here of questionable property."
Oh, so good, so
And
good.
you're thinking at first, oh, he's talking about because there was a couple episodes ago, take home, not take home, Mamatha's brother-in-law, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
was going through his whole tirade about fake
Oh, that was a great
antiquities.
episode. Another Clea heavy episode.
Another Clay episode. So
Yeah.
your mind is thinking perhaps he's making a pun at he perhaps all this shit that he's been fabricating is not real. He knows it. But then when you go deeper and peel it back, he's like, no, you and I are fake.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
here we are at this moment. and then he tries to do the seppuku shogun. It doesn't work because I guess he's too old, doesn't realize that he's got to cut a little higher. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm getting long with it. I want to make
Not
sure.
not a great blade though
Uses
to
the
do it with.
bleeder. Well, he
Yeah, I mean,
used the
Yeah.
bleeder.
he was gonna die of tetanus anyway.
Yeah.
But that was his last moment. Really, was him trying to make that act. And Clea watches from afar him getting transported, and I think at that moment she knew that he was still alive, and he would never want to be alive. He never want to compromise the rebellion by being coerced, mentally mind wiped, whatever it was, to get the secrets that he held about Yavin and all that stuff. So she knew she had to be the one, and I love the fact that they gave us this great little hospital, um, you know,
Infiltration.
Heist. Almost.
infiltration. Thank you, not a heist,
Yeah.
infiltration.
You know that. Yeah.
And it's tense. But you know the end game is she's not gonna rescue him.
No.
She's gonna silence him because that's what she has to do. And she gets to that moment, and I think I direct messaged you guys. It reminded me of episode of 24, many years ago, where the character who died was the first character who had a silent death, and in the typical Jack Bauer countdown went silent without the deep
Mm.
deep deep. And I was like, this was chef's kiss. He didn't go out with an explosion. He didn't go out getting shot. He didn't go out, making a sacrifice by blowing something. He died serving his mission, serving his cause, protecting his assistant
Yeah, I was.
quietly.
You're in your mind. You're expecting like, oh, they've set a trap within the thing just in case, and he's got to hit this. Like, put that dagger in this thing, and it sets the whole thing ablaze. No, he was really just like, okay, well, I guess I gotta go.
Yeah, it was all ad hoc. Like it was just like, we know we have a plan, but now that we're here, no, you go take care of this. Let me handle this, and then
Yeah, he had like another great line right before that where he said, "We're all." What does he say? We're all out of perfect.
we're all out of perfect.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yes,
But
all
in
out of
his
perfect.
death moment, I was like, are they gonna wake him up? Is he gonna see her? Are they gonna have a final thing? And no,
Nothing.
she didn't
No.
hesitate. She kissed him, but she didn't hesitate. She
Yeah.
didn't spend a bunch of time crying over it. I mean, she let the tear go. She did the thing she had to do, and she got out of there. And the whole scene, they just slowly
And then they
went
fade to black. Did
fade
you
to
caught
black
that, right?
with that little beep
Beep.
going,
Mhm.
and that just ended the episode. And I'm like, oh, yeah. You don't
Yeah.
cheer for the death, but you're like,
So the only thing I'm going to add real quick, because we spent a bit of time on this, the flashback scene was excellent. I loved we got that backstory between the two of them, and the closer she got to him in the hospital, the sadder I got because we knew what was coming, right? Or at least I figured what was coming. So
it's weird. I didn't feel it in the moment. I was kind of caught up in the tension of the thing and the backstory and the thing. And as we're talking about it now, it's kind of hitting me later. I think I've said this. I don't know if I've said it to you guys, but I've said it before. The best thing about this show, I mean, it's great all around, but like it's one of those things that the more you talk about it, the better it gets.
yeah.
There's very few things that sometimes you delve in and go, oh, I remember that silly thing. Oh, that's actually kind of stupid after I think of it. No, I feel like everything in this show is like better the more you talk about it. But okay. And Lucen's death, another thing he did, not only did he save the Yavin secret, but he jails Deidre with his death.
Right.
He basically kills Partagaz with his death.
Mm-hmm.
So he like wipes out the last of the ISB by sacrifice. Which is great.
Yep. Great point there.
Partagaz is another one of this episode where he actually just like poof. Very interesting scene. He gets a last scene with Krennic.
Mm-hmm.
His old Naval Academy buddy.
Right? Krennic giving him a lot of respect, but knowing that basically they're both. If this thing doesn't work, they're both dead, and the first person who realizes he's done is part of gas.
Let me, Mike. I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut you again.
Hmm.
I'll try. I'll try not to. I'll calibrate my enthusiasm for this.
Hmm.
I think it was beautiful. The transition from one scene to Patagon's scene is a voiceover of Nemec's manifesto, iconic,
Yeah.
and then you see it from his point of view as he's listening to a transmission that's going galactic wide. Moments before the other Imperial officer that we've seen before in this season shows up with the stormtroopers saying, "Hey, you gotta go to tribunal." God knows whether that tribunal is going to be Vader or Palpatine himself, because Krennic did say this is very important to the Emperor himself.
Mm-hmm.
So he's thinking, he's calculating, he's listening. In my mind, in my heart of hearts, I like to believe that his final act was the result of him listening to the Nemec's manifesto and realizing that they're doomed.
Mm.
Like he spent like he's been out of Cyril and Dedra one thing. He's been the most automaton, like calculating individual.
Mm-hmm.
Very little feeling. He supported Dedra when she needed to be supported against her other colleagues. He's about the mission. You could tell his interaction with Krennic is like these people grew up in the post Old Republic through the Empire. They grew up as cadets, officers, senior ranking officers, and then like the Joint Chiefs of Staff kind of level at this point. And he realized as he's sitting there, he's listening to Nemec's speech. He's like, "We miscalculated everything."
Well, it was like his job to shut this down. Everything about the ISB was we are going
Right.
to prevent we are going to prevent this rebellion. We were going to keep it low. We're going to cut its head. We're going to do the Hydra thing and cut and two more kept growing.
Yeah,
Like he was not prepared for it to break out like this, you
I
know.
think I want to take it a step further, and I'll be real quick on this one. I think not only he was not prepared, but I think he realizes that it was a failing approach anyway. Once he's listening to the words that Nemec was saying over the transmission, like all these holes here, you're plugging all these holes, and eventually it takes one, everything collapses, and
Right.
he's
The
sitting
dam
there
is about to
with his
burst.
own demise on his mind, thinking like this was never going to work. Like this Death Star plan, the Gorman massacre, like we were gonna fail regardless, and now I have to go to possible prison or worse. Let me gather my thoughts. Those were his final words, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like to think Nemec's manifesto had some sort of impact on his final decision.
I
That's just
do, but I've heard people be like, "Oh, maybe he was reconsidering being an Empire." No, no, he was
no,
Empire through and through. It
yes.
was the realization that his work was done. He was screwed, and he failed. Like there was no winning as the Empire. Like the last chance, yes, is maybe this Death Star can blow up enough of them, but if it spreads galaxy wide, you can't blow everybody up.
I'm
Yeah.
with you. I'm with you. Sorry, Mike. I cut you off earlier.
No, no, you're fine. That's good.
All right, so Mike, I'll give you any of these: Cyril, Brasso, Cinta, or the Spy that you're
I mean,
amuse
we
bouche.
got to talk about Cyril's come to Jesus moment, right? Facing off finally against Andor on Gorman,
I have so
and
much
then
to say.
Andor with the iconic "Who are you?"
Oh, it was great.
Right? Like,
Cyril Skywalker.
yeah.
Cyril, Cyril.
I mean, in that moment, and that look in his eyes, and he's slowly lowering the gun, like, who am I? Like, who am I? Right? What have I become? You know? And I'm not calling it a redemption because I don't think it's redemption. But in the end, he pretty much got what he deserved, right?
I think
I wouldn't say everything that led up to that point was his fault necessarily. He was also a product of his environment, but
I'm
you
with you.
know,
I'm with you.
so.
he went out.
Do you want me to rant about Cyril?
Yeah,
Go for it. Yeah, I
go for
got
it, man.
I
Okay.
want to hear this.
So Cyril doesn't have a redemption arc.
No.
Cyril is like that perfect right-leaning centrist guy.
Oh shit, we're going there.
Um,
Here we go.
like he loves the idea of law and order. Like that gets him out of the bed in the morning. That made him
The Law and Order Party.
tuck in his shirt tighter. That idea of cops walking down the street and arresting some criminals, man. That made him adjust his sleeves a little bit more. That dude loved that idea, but he had no idea, honestly, I do believe, exactly what that entailed on an authoritarian state level. And I think a lot of people are willing to ignore that. Like he's a product of that propaganda. Like if he wasn't on Gorman, that propaganda that they were feeding his mom, we saw that scene, he would have been eating that up. He would have been, yeah, you got to get rid of those rebels. Yeah, you got to take care of those people. Oh, I can't believe they're blowing up our stuff. Like that was all meant for people exactly like him. And and he he just doesn't understand, or he's smart, but he wasn't willing to look further or deeper into that kind of what it takes and what it does. And so when he actually is forced to see it because he's put in a position that he thinks he's going to fight that element, that rebel element against his precious law and order, and he actually is forced to see what the authoritarian state is willing to do, he breaks because he loves the order part of the law and order, and that's not law and order. Assassinating a guy in the crowd. That's not what he's thinking and not what he wants, but he still wants the other part of it. And
Yeah,
so
so you could probably relate that to like January 6th, like
Oh,
all those people that stormed the Capitol, and the
doubling down on this.
people who supported Trump on the news, right? Who
mhm.
were like, "Yeah, I'm law and order," but what the fuck are these people doing?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So
Or you're right now, if we go right into the news, you're seeing people who watch their neighbor or
yeah,
the kid at their school. They're watching ICE come in and take a child, and they're going, "What the fuck is that?" And you're going,
right.
"Well, that's the authoritarian shit that you voted for." No, I didn't. I didn't
Exactly.
vote for that. And that's what I mean. That's him. He is that guy. And once he was like forced to see it, he kind of broke down. I don't know what he would have done after the fact if he just walked away and left and whatever. I don't think it's very interesting to say he goes back to live with his mom and he just becomes a drone again. Like that's not really interesting.
So I'm gonna say I have more sympathy for Cyril's plight than I do for Trump supporters.
Well,
And the reason being,
one's fake.
well, the reason being is the emperor never came out and said, "I'm going to go massacre a bunch of people." But
He was at least
most,
trying to hide it, right?
right, most people knew who Trump was, even especially after his first term, and then what he said he was going to do on day one if he was elected. So, if we, comparing the two, I feel more bad for Cyril in this
All
case.
right.
Sorry.
I
Okay,
was
one
saving my
one last
political
thing
stuff
before
for
I let
later.
James take over.
I was saving my political stuff later because I want to get
Okay.
the Star Wars.
Okay, one last thing about Cyril
Go ahead.
Yeah.
is that when he saw Andor, he his brain laid all the blame on Andor. Like he wasn't willing to say, "Oh, the Emperor shouldn't have done this," or the ISB, "What are you doing?" As soon as he landed on Andor, his brain had somebody to blame because that's where this all started for him. Whether it started for the ISB or the Empire, it didn't. But for him, it all started with Andor, and so that's where he got like single-minded. I got to get rid of this. This is the thing that killed my life, and that's why I think that ending is so perfect for him because it is the kind of thing where people will blame something, they'll see it, and then they'll find something else to blame but the real thing that's causing it. You know what I mean? You know, I wish Satan wasn't here causing this car crash, and you're like, that's not really what's happening, dude.
Satan, take the wheel.
Right? Exactly. So he found a scapegoat in that moment, and he took all his aggression and all his anger and all his fear out on Andor in that moment. And then when Andor's like, I don't know who the fuck you are. That was great. Okay.
But I feel like, and I'm stay off the political third rail for a couple more moments. Going back to Cyril, I have to marry, no pun intended, Dedra with Cyril because they're like two binary characters. I think something that I'm putting onto the show. I don't think Tony Gilroy thought about this, but it's shown because it's showing you how different people react from nurture and nature and become who they become as adults. We've learned in this season that Cyril, who was raised by a single mom, and an uncle who was kind of like on the shadows provider. That uncle wasn't goody two shoe. He was a possible criminal. That Dedra read his files, and then Dedra herself grew up as a foster child whose parents were criminals.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that played into their mindset of who they would become as adults. The law and order, like our parents and our secondary familial members broke the law. They broke against the empire's dictum. So we're going to counterbalance that by being straight and narrow and following the edict of the empire and pushing it as far as we can as professionals.
And
Whereas on the flip side, you see people like Luthen, Cassian, the people of Ferrix, where they had their own hardships from the government, local and galactic. And rather than like go the routes that folks in the Empire did, they decided to rebel against it because, as Nemec would say, freedom and oppression. So I like to think, and I don't think Tony really was thinking about this, that this show kind of shows you how different people react to the same level of conflict at a younger age, at, in a wider stance,
well,
right?
and if you look at Deidre, she kind of in the similar, not at the same moment, but when she started hearing about this Death Star plan, and she wanted out of that meeting. She realized what was going on, and she's like, I don't want to be a part of this. But she, unlike Cyril, she wasn't going to walk out the door. She broke for a minute. She cried. She freaked out. And then she kind of got herself back together and said, all right, let's keep going. Like,
You forget, she came up with the better plan. She came up with the whole Fox
right.
News plan.
But they also, like, both of them realized how far the Empire was willing to go. They didn't like it, but they had slightly different reactions. Like, what you are going to do after this. Deidre's, like, going to continue. She's going to stay with the Empire. She's too far gone. I'm in this. Yes, I don't like it, but I'm going to head forward. Whereas Cyril kind of broke completely and went off and, in a daze, getting shot at. So interesting, like, what that breaking point for those two characters, which were similar, but how they react and what they do next. Because her next reaction was, now I've got to go harder. I got to go more. I got to go farther.
More Kylo Ren voice.
Yeah, exactly. So, another person with a quiet, not quite death, Deidre.
Justice.
Brasso was a real sad death. Cinta too. I was broken. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? You're gonna kill Cinta like that? Like that?
Accidentally. I know. That's the what's worse.
But war is war, gentlemen and ladies who are watching.
Friendly fire. Yep, it happened.
Makes sense afterwards.
Training accidents, friendly fire, mistakes in manufacturing. bullshit like that.
because it honestly, when you go back and look at the episode, there are so many Easter eggs or clues where they kept talking about follow our order. So if you
Hmm.
can't get out of here,
Don't take
no
the gun with
guns,
you. She
only
says,
us. Chekhov's gun literally was shown, right?
yeah.
No one is to have guns. Let us and then and you're kind of like empathizing with the Gorman folks because it's like a foreigner coming in. Wow, talk about real life. I'm not getting like we're gonna help you overtake your oppressors. We're gonna arm you. We're gonna train you.
Hmm.
And we're gonna guide you. But you have to listen to us. We're like the experience. So they're like, no, this is our country. We'd rather do it ourselves. Okay, you do it yourselves, you're gonna lose, or you're gonna listen to us. So the way the episode was leading to that moment, you're like, okay, I can see why the Gormans are mistrustful of Senta and Vel, although we as an audience know everything about Senta, and we also know that they had a spy that they're not even aware of. But you understand, like they're passionate people. They're French. They're French.
Hmm.
They're passionate. They believe in their cause, and they want to do it their way. These people are not Gorman. They're outsiders that were sent to them from a mysterious person that's telling them, basically talking down to them. It kind of rubs them a wrong way. And then sadly, because of that emotional um, decision, Cinta get why Cinta? Because it has to be meaningful.
Because she's gay.
Because had it been an accidental death with one of their own, it would have been like,
Disney
that's their
Disney
issue.
targeted her.
But oh my god, gay and brown.
That's
No,
right.
Yeah.
no, that is not
I
true.
call false flag on this.
I think it was impactful, and I
Yeah.
don't think it was a waste of a death. I think Senta herself the night before that when she consummated their relationship. I think she had lived her purpose. She was like, you don't know what happened the year that we were talking to each other. I
Well,
had a major life um health issue. I came out of it. Here I
and it
am.
makes it all the more sad because you remember in season 1 she was like, "No, it's the rebellion first, and then we get what's left over." Great
Hmm.
line.
She was still grieving her first family.
And then she comes back and she's like, "I've realized what I actually want. I can have I can kind of have both. We can be together and we can do this, and that's what I want." Realizing whatever happened to her off screen was really impactful in that sense of, oh, wait, I should take this while I can. And
But one thing, Chris, we should know is no one gets to eat the cake and icing too in this entire show,
Yeah.
including the protagonist of the show, Cassian himself,
hmm and that's
which we'll get to it.
it's kind of, without saying it, this show said, take what you can get today. It's important. Take what
Like
you can
this.
get today because you might not have that tomorrow, especially in these situations. All right, now that we've only gone through one of my points,
Dear Lord.
number two, how all of our main, and we kind of touched this quite a bit already, but how all of our main Empire characters get eaten up by the machine that they're working to protect. Like, these people weren't come like nobody came in from the rebellion and shot them. Obviously, they tried in the first season. You know, Deidre almost got caught by the rebellion, but she got saved. But all of these people actually got destroyed by the Empire, not by the rebellion. And it's really interesting way to show that these main characters in this, um, you know, they weren't victims of a terrorist or rebel explosion or sniper fire. She gets placed into a prison that she was more than happy to send others to. You know, Cyril could have survived if he was all in on being a horrible person, but being betrayed by the Empire broke him.
Yeah.
And obviously Partagaz thought he had everything going. He had this under control, and then when he didn't, the Empire was gonna take him out, so he took himself out first. So I don't know if there's another good example of this, but I just noticed that with these specific characters.
And not to cut Mike off again, Mike. I think this was great theme and narrative. writing from Tony Gilroy, because although he didn't write Rogue One, he was heavily influenced in the final cut. If you look at Krennic, the character Krennic himself,
Yep, that's what I was thinking
there's
about
a
too.
cascading. No, this
Yep.
is perfect. Cyril was betrayed by Dedra, intentionally, not intentionally. He meets his demise. Dedra meets her demise because again, she read information that was confidential that she shouldn't have been reading. She got her served. Um, Patagoras, who was overseeing Dedra, he gets into it as well. Krennic eventually,
Hmm.
who created the Death Star, gets destroyed by the Death Star itself. Poetic. Tarkin gets destroyed by the same machine. Vader takes out the Emperor. It's like it's an overall story, and I think
After
Tony
choking out a bunch of low-level officers as well.
yes. So I think this is an ongoing story that Tony Gilroy said. You know what? I'm gonna magnify this 10 times
Hmm.
and show you how evil eats itself.
And even just thinking of the Gorman massacre, they started by sacrificing a whole group of young soldiers. Like
Hmm.
that's how they don't start it by, killing the crowd. They start it by killing their own soldiers and feeding them this like meal, and then oh my god, what's going on? And ooh, yeah.
Yeah, Mike, I cut you off one too many
No,
times.
I was actually just going to talk about Krennic, how in Rogue One, basically the same thing happens to him, right?
Hmm.
And it's almost as if, I mean, the stuff happens to him, but you got to think about how much ego plays into it, right? Like, I'm too smart, I'm too powerful for anything bad to happen to me. Well, guess what? You're not. So,
Hmm. Or I'm too ambitious. They're gonna
right.
want me. They're gonna
Mm-hmm.
love that I'm smart, that I'm doing things, that I'm doing extra. And then somebody comes along who says, "You're doing too much. You're getting in my way."
Mm-hmm.
You're expendable.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And absolutely everybody in this show at that level is expendable, and it's cool. All right.
Yeah.
So we already talked about a lot of that. So
Yeah.
all right, I love this, and this really hit home at the end of the show. The disconnect and the animosity between the larger organized rebellion and the original guerrilla rebel groups. Specifically, really comes across when Andor. We see Andor get get a lot of flack when he's in and out from the rebel base, and obviously they're trying to stay secret, and he's doing his thing. But when he comes back, when he goes out and he saves Clea, and he comes back, and he's like, I've got this really important, really big piece of information, and they're like, you know what? I'm not sure. Like, it's not that great information. What? How do we know it's real? Luthen. They start bad mountain, bad mouthing
Nothing,
Luthen,
Luther.
ugh.
Yeah.
And Andor's like, what the fuck's going on? And obviously that whole scene starts where you come in and you see Saw, and he's like, why are you guys stop sending spies at me? Like, and they're like, well, we're not against you, Saw. And he's like, bullshit, you're not. Like,
Mm.
I know you guys hate me, and it's true. Like, there's this interesting undercurrent of, yes, we watch the main rebellion, and that's who we love because we've seen that for decades. But this show is really good. We've heard about Saw. You guys have watched more of him because you watched the animated series. Um, but I've only ever heard propaganda things from the rebellion that Saw's not that great of a guy,
The Hollow Net.
right? So like it's so interesting. I kind of wish we got a bit more of him. Um, but it's just really interesting to see how the rebellion kind of, once that core is formed, they're like, we don't need you anymore. You guys are a problem. And I just interesting to see. What I'll let
So,
Mike start.
yeah, so the only thing I'll say about that was I agree with you, except I think Mon Mothma had that sentimentality trying to always save him. She did it twice. So there was a clip I sent you guys from the Rebels animated where he's arguing with her over a hollow, just like in the end of Andor there.
Hmm.
And it was about a different thing, and she's trying to convince him, like, you know, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you. The same kind of thing. So I think she was always she understood where the rebellion was going,
Hmm.
and she kind of didn't want to leave them behind because of what they've sacrificed so far. But for Saw, I think if Luthen had a way out, he probably would have been there.
Hmm.
I agree.
But for Saw was all about, because he grew up and his family got killed during the Clone Wars, um, and he saw how the government, the politics of it,
Hmm.
wasn't getting the job done right. So he was having no part of it. So I don't think there was any saving him at that point. But she tried, right?
Yeah, I think that speaks more about Mon Mothma as a character
Mm,
rather than the larger group, specifically like Bail, Organa, and some of the other annoying senators that were there. That they don't want anything to do with those people.
yeah,
They really wanted to brush that dirty history away, and be this clean rebellion, this like new republic army. You know, they
yeah,
wanted to think of themselves as like a real thing, and it's just I just was really wowed by that they really came out with that very base. Like Clea isn't really welcomed, like Andor
She didn't
specifically.
want to go at first. Cassian.
right. She knew they would treat
Yeah,
her like crap.
yeah. He's like,
Yeah,
this isn't the welcome I thought you were gonna get.
yeah. And
So
so one thing I'll say about Bale, I wonder if he had survived Alderaan,
Alderaan.
huh?
Alderaan, if he had
Yeah,
survived.
if he had survived, if he would have helped the New Republic be better than it turned out to be. You know what I mean?
Probably.
Yeah,
Especially
well,
with
the
Leia, his daughter, now
yeah.
a leader.
maybe if he believed the intel, he wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
Let me talk at this moment. This is probably the only time I'm going to get really political, real world political. This reminds me of the civil rights movements of the '60s here in our country, where it was started not grassroots. It was actually started much before that. You know, the Black Panther movement,
Mm,
Southern Christian Baptist movement, uh, and then it coalesced into an organized movement in the early to mid after JFK's death. Um, after certain prominent folks lost their lives in the rebellion, then you started getting people of privilege who had the same ideologies, mostly white, Jewish, whatever, that helped take it to the next point where laws were being passed in Congress, presidential executive orders. And it took away, in my mind, as an African American here in this country, eventually it took away the meaning behind a lot of the stuff that was being fought for. People were dying, getting hosed, dogs on them, killed, burned, going to prison. But then once the higher collective started getting involved and stuff was being seen, nationwide, then the the cause was still there, but it changed trajectory to the point where things are actually being passed. Unfortunately, when you go to the '80s and '90s, all those original leaders and everything that they fought for was being pushed aside. We're talking about critical race theory right now. I was fortunate enough to be a young African American male, born and raised in Brooklyn with a predominantly black school, and I learned all this stuff. I
mm.
knew about the black national anthem, whereas some of my white friends now are like, "Why we got a new anthem? What's wrong with this?" And I'm
Wait,
like,
did the
"Dude, that's
NFL make this? What
I'm
happened?
exactly." And this is stuff that's lost in history in our own country because the history of how the activism started as far back as the 30s, 40s, World War II, soldiers are coming back. And Sinners, great movie by the way, touched upon that a little bit. And it wasn't until certain white privileged folks started getting involved, then all of a sudden it became national information. And I correlate this with with the Andor show is because I feel like yes, there is the Luthans, there's the Cassians, there's if you watch Star Wars Rebels, there's countless of other former Imperial who broke good.
Yeah.
There's planets that were already being going against the Empire before the Rebel Alliance. But if you just watch Star Wars: A New Hope 2025, you this farm boy, this princess, and the Wookiee were our galactic heroes, and then you learn that for the rest of the galactic history through Mandalorian times. These were our heroes. These are the ones who toppled the Empire and saved. In reality,
It's kind of horribly ironically funny in that sense that the first thing we get is this fancy, mystical fantasy of how rebellion works. And then later on, much later on, we're all kind of, hey, this is actually the dirty history behind that rebellion. And it's
So
like
that
it accidentally works like historically in that
so
manner.
that I was thinking about that exact point the other day, but from the position of Gen X, it was actually perfect because when those movies came out and we were kids, we knew who the bad guy was, we knew who the good guy was,
Communism, baby.
and we didn't question why the Empire was bad and why the rebellion was good, and we didn't care why the Empire was bad, and we didn't care how the rebellion formed. And now I'm older and I watch Andor, and you're like, this is just a perfect complement to the things I didn't necessarily care about when I was watching this at like 5 years old, right? And I go, oh yeah, Vader bad, Luke good. And now you're like, yep, this is exactly why, you know, the Empire is bad and the rebellion was necessary.
but to me, it wasn't a great point, Mike. But to me, I take it a step further. It's like, how does this motley crew of folks take down this powerful empire? Like, how is that even happening? This Death Star that was like the size of a moon, this
Yeah.
farm boy with this mystical power. Like, what? Again, as a young kid who's deep into Star Wars, I didn't care at the moment. But as an adult, it was like this is kind of silly. Like, and then Tony Gilroy and the Andor crew was like, you know what? It is silly, but let's maturize it a little bit more. Let's tell you, you know what? None of this wouldn't happen. This space wizard kid and his hermit uncle living in Tatooine, and his Chewbacca and Han Solo and his rich princess, the Nancy Pelosi type figure. None of that wouldn't matter if it wasn't for like the 15, 20 years of sacrifices, of calculated sacrifices,
Mm.
of spying, living double lives. Mamata herself, who we first saw in the third movie. I don't think we saw her in New Hope or Empire. I think her introduction is the Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
I
I
could be
think so.
mistaken.
I think
Like
she didn't. Was there like cut scenes or something? Or am I
there might have been
thinking
cut
of
scenes in Empire, or maybe the
there?
first movie when
Well,
everybody
there
was
was
blowing
cut
heaven.
scenes in episode 1,
That's no episode 3.
episode 3.
Revenge of the Sith.
Oh no, I'm talking about
I know
actual
Original
originally.
trilogy.
Empire.
She's
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the third. Yeah, she's in episode 6, and then in episode 3, her scene was
yeah.
cut. Yeah.
Episode 6 is the first time we even. Oh, there's a leader of this rebel alliance. It's not just a bunch of farm boys or
Right.
pirate smugglers they recruit. Han Solo becomes a general or a captain in like one fucking movie. You're like, what the fuck?
Captain
Cassian,
Solo. Like what?
Cassian over 4 years. Cassian goes from a petty thief to a mercenary to
Spy.
prisoner and Narkina to a rebel sergeant to eventual rebel captain over 4 or 5 years. He
Yeah.
doesn't have Space Jesus next to him. It's just him, right? So to me, it is chef's
No,
kiss.
but you know what? He put it perfectly himself. That a lot of it was luck. So
4 years of luck is different than Han Solo's 6 months of luck.
yeah, no, I get it,
Well,
and that's
like
why I keep saying we could have had a great Han Solo series as well instead of that movie we got.
I'm not gonna. I'm not
Ah,
gonna.
it was okay, but it like it's not. There wasn't something like a
It
next
wasn't
thing
very
to it.
deep. Yeah,
No, yeah, it was more about like how did I get these pants?
yeah, exactly. And why? How did I meet Lando? And
It's funny
where did my
because
ship come
they
from? Yeah,
introduced some of like initial rebels, like we're rebels to the Empire, like, and then they just like glossed over it. It's like, well, what about those guys? Those guys are kind of cool. Look at that mask. That's pretty neat. Like that would have been a cool follow up. And obviously, it I was right. It was a cool follow up. Just not those guys. It was the rebels. You know.
But Chris, just to close out this, because this topic that you brought up, I think that the telltale situation with the council that was formed at the end of Andor going into Rogue One, where you basically replaced all of the leaders of the. You took out Saul, you took out Luthen, you put in Mamonto, you put in Bale, and you put like a bunch of other generals, General Radisar. These people were of privilege already,
Mm-hmm.
and they just shared the same ideology as the grassroots rebellion.
Right.
However, they came from a much higher status going into this rebellion. So to them, it's their way and not this dirty, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
like we're doing it our way now. Saul Guerrero, he's a separate whatever, like whatever they
Separatist.
and
yeah.
to eventual failure of the New Republic because you replace the Republican Party with the Democratic Party that had its own. Again, I don't get real world. With their own, all right, we got rid of Trump 1.0. Now we're bringing in Biden.
Right.
Great,
Like
great. Guess what? New Order Trump 2.0 is right around the corner.
That's right.
yeah, you got to be careful for that sequel trilogy.
Yeah, we're getting it. We're living it right now.
We're living it now.
The final solution.
All right, all right, all right. A last
Sorry,
one
sorry, Chris.
before we give our grades. This one, this season more than the previous season, seemed to have more real life things. So you had TV propaganda, you had talk shows, you had immigrant farm workers, you had the
Filibuster
Bix
Papers.
Assault, which was a very big thing that spread across the Star Wars universe. Things that felt viscerally like real life. And I know the whole thing, like you can go, oh my God, that's like this event in Mexico, or that's like this revolution in some place. This felt like stuff like I get out of bed and I can see. Like that's very different when I mean this felt like there were some real life things. Um, Maybe the closest thing in season one was the arrest. Like when all of a sudden they were like clamping down and just arresting people and throwing them into prison for whatever. A lot of that this season. Did you guys feel that, or is that just me?
Go ahead, Mike. I've been cutting you off all night.
I mean, this season or would overall, like,
well, I mean, you can go overall if you want, but I thought
no, I mean, definitely in the first season, but I don't, I'm trying to think now.
like you didn't find it weird to have the real like HD television like morning news host, you know, or
Not
like
if you
that
read the
didn't.
books like Mike and I did. Yeah,
I
there's a
guess it's
hollow net in Legends.
yeah, but they were
Yeah.
on like literal real televisions. Like it wasn't a little forest
Yes,
screen,
I'm
blue
used to the
green
books that are
that people
Yeah,
were
decanonized.
well,
dialing
most people
in.
didn't have, yeah, that kind of stuff, right? So,
So it felt like there was this weird weird, a little bit more realistic. Um but I don't know if you guys want to say anything.
Since Mike didn't offer anything, let me offer something real quick.
Mhm.
To me, it didn't bother me because
It
I
didn't
think I'm.
bother me. I just it felt very visceral.
I didn't think it was any realer than season one. To be quite honest, or real to our real life, I should say. Right.
yeah.
I think because again, I'm very immersed in the books and all that other stuff. That to me, it made sense in the storytelling. What I find more real is is you get to see good episode season two when Mon Mothma is lobbying for votes. I'm
That was
like,
great.
this
Yeah.
is Like this is something I've never read any of the books or seen any of the shows, but I know in real life it is happening. For the party that's not empowered, a minority powered party, to trying to reconcile votes across the aisle, which Mamata tried. She couldn't even get people within her faction to vote because they're the fear of Palpatine, the
Mm-hmm.
fear
Mm-hmm.
of the supreme executive officer.
Right.
So I thought, to me, that was extremely real, more real than anything else in season 2 and season 1 combined.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, I don't know if Tony Gilroy. This was written definitely before Trump was elected. I don't know if that was something that was in the back of his mind. Knowing that he's also American, he's 72 years old. He's probably seen it since the Reagan administration. So to him to write that into a very important episode, to me, I thought that was purposeful, and it's meant to convey a message, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, depending on your political leanings. That to me was probably the realest of any moment in the show.
Yeah, it kind of brought back to me. There's an episode of The Bad Batch where they had that
Mm.
little blue senator, and she was fighting for the rights of clones who were kind
Yes.
of kicked
Oh
out,
yes,
and then they had like the clone sitting on the like trying to get some change out of work kind of thing. Like
Right.
that whole veterans like fight was so
Yeah.
interesting. I was like, "Oh man, there is so much here. This is so interesting."
the
And
VA, our VA.
obviously that didn't go anywhere, but of all the things in that show, I was surprised that really like piqued my interest. That was it. And that really relates to what you're saying about the Mon Mothma in the Senate. The speeches are great, but sometimes you got to see a little behind the scenes and fun like that.
That was fantastic. Like I'm sitting there watching this. Like I cannot stop thinking about what's happening, what's happened in our
Mm-hmm.
real world government
Yeah.
and the Senate,
All
no
right.
matter what the political leanings are.
Okay, so we've been at this for an hour here. We don't want to get too much more. Again, we could
I
talk
do
about
have
this
one
for
question for you guys though before we go to grades.
go.
Okay, originally Andor was supposed to be 5 seasons,
Mm,
1 year for
you
every season.
wish.
Yeah,
So that's my question to you. If we had gotten 5 seasons, do you think the show would have been as good as a condensed mini, let's say, quadrilogy we got for season 2?
I'd say no. I'd
See,
say
the
no.
hard thing for me is I could feel in season two the momentum shift from season one. Season one was like each group of episodes built to the next, to the next, to the next, and the tension and the tension and the tension. And I felt when you flipped years, you kind of lost a lot of tension. Like a lot of them started with like, here's Bix and Andor living a nice little quiet life, and obviously they're not going to be able to live this, and so you can feel sad about it. And then it builds and builds and builds for 3 episodes, and then you
Mm,
kind of get reset again.
yeah.
You know, so though I like the season, I think there is some loss to that. Hey, if this was 5 seasons in a magical universe where Tony Gilroy does not get tired of this, Tony and Dan love doing this. They put as much time as they could on that. Of course, it could be fantastic, but does it feel like would we be in 4 years from now living the real world we're living, watching this you know watching this
Every
every
year.
year, would it feel kind of oppressive?
Yeah.
I'd say no, Mike, to your question, because in the last 25 years of television, the the shows that actually came out with that game plan, none of them have succeeded.
Right.
Lost was the last show, 2003, that after the pilot premiere was so huge that went on record saying that they had they're going to do four multiple episodes.
Hmm.
And we know how that ended.
Yeah.
Every other show after that that was successful were shows that were written with like a 1 or 2 season in mind. The Wire, Breaking Bad, all these shows went up to be really great.
Hmm.
They never architected themselves into like a multiple season arc. They
Right.
said we're going to focus on this season, we're focusing that season, and then AMC, Walking Dead. Walking Dead's a great example of this. They were getting critically acclaimed to the point where they kept coming back to make these seasons. They would say one more season, they would say two more seasons. Ultimately, 7 seasons later, you're like, oh shit, wrap this shit up. This is whack. I don't think the formula works in the modern age of television. Maybe this was like the 80s and 90s, but I have yet to see in the last 2.5 decades a show to say we have a story, we have a 4 season or 5 season amount of material, and they pump it out, and it's successful.
Yeah,
I
it's
Yeah.
interesting because there is a set endpoint that you can't go past. But I can see where 5 seasons of it can feel a little bit repetitive. So like I would love would 3 seasons have worked better? Maybe. I
Maybe.
obviously I would watch it and I would love to watch it. But knowing that Andor that Rogue One is sitting there, like it can when I get a chance to watch it. I did watch it within the last 12 months. I don't remember exactly when. But
love to see spin-offs. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Hmm.
well, like I said, there's so much you can do. You can do Mon Mothma stuff because people loved her. You go somewhere else in politics. Like I said, with the little blue senator, with the Bad Batch and the clones and all that. That's you. There's lots of different political buttons to push if you really think that this is a hey adult Star Wars or adult topical Star Wars is interesting, and we're not going to stop making things about Jedi, but we can do something interesting on this realm. Even if you include Jedi, you could do something within the Jedi Council that's more political. Like this is a show that's examined philosophy versus action within the Jedi Council, and we're going to keep it real tight and real small, and it's going to be politically minded, you know, the young Pope style or whatever the fuck show you want to relate it to.
I'm gonna say it doesn't all have to be political. It can also be, and I was thinking about this morning at work. Give me a story of Galen Erso from the moment that he's taken off from that planet by Krennic to his death on in Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
Like his life as an engineer. Sorry, I'm an engineer. Um, he came up with the idea of building this trap door, and he slowly played the role of engineering the Death Star. Like, give me a 1 season, 6 episode story about Galen, if the actor, he's a big time actor now.
Matt Mickelson. Yeah.
Thank you. Like, give me a
Mm-hmm.
6 episode was from that arc. Like, give me that. It doesn't have to be comedic. Doesn't have to be overly political. But show me what it took for him to get to the point where he was willing to risk his life to create this infamous um, trapdoor into the Death Star. And what got him to tell the pilot Brody, like, listen, this is what I've done, Stardust. I need it out there. I'm finally tired of playing the role of the Empire. I know what I created can do. Oppenheimer. Give me space Oppenheimer. I just walked myself into the script.
Yeah.
There you
Give me
go.
Give me all the other nerdy engineers that got killed in Rogue One. So we already know where they're gonna go. But show me their lives. Like what
Mhm.
got them to fucking engineer this? They got the calcite from Gorman. The shipment just arrived. Don't worry how we got it. Don't worry. The kyber crystals just arrived. Don't worry how we got that either. Just fucking engineer, engineer, engineer. Boom. Space Oppenheimer.
Mike, do you want any space IT people?
That's right. I need to see how their communications network work.
Yeah, how did the transmission to Scarif work?
That's right.
I need some.
How much data are they storing on those drives?
I need some space graphic design.
That's right.
Who makes sure the ISB room is very clinically clean? Who chooses the yellow uniforms for the hospital staff? Come on,
Right.
we got some work to do. All right, let's do grades. This is interesting. I think we're gonna do a lot of C's here, guys. Let's figure it out.
D for doo doo.
I'm looking to buy my Andor T-shirt here on Amazon. Go ahead.
All right. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
You're the
All right.
leader.
This is a tough one
Mhm.
because I've said before it did lack the momentum of season one. But as the more I've talked about it, I can't think of a single like bad thing that I want to say about it. It pushed some uncomfortable boundaries in the Star Wars universe in a good way, especially for the subject matter, for the topical matter, for the news. And he wasn't even looking at the news. This is all historical stuff too. Kept the action pretty small, but the tension nice and high. The more I think about, especially the Clea scenes, like the opening Andor scene is kind of the biggest adventure action scene, and everything after that is kind of kept really tight and small. Kept the characters' motivations and actions front and center. I didn't quite get as emotional initially as I did in season one for the finale, but the more I think about it, I'm kind of getting there. So I think I have to go. I just got to give it. I think I'm going to give it an A plus. Like I could go A, but I think there's just so much excitement and interest in it. I've got to go. I'm just going to give it an A plus. Fuck it, A plus. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. So yeah,
Go ahead, Mike.
I think this is one of the top shows of this year. I too was it's hard to find fault with the season. I mean, that ending was fantastic. You know, Bix with the baby
I
and
didn't
all
even
that.
talk about that.
Yeah,
We didn't
and
talk
Cassian
about
on
it,
his
yeah.
date.
I thought
Yeah,
You mean Poe
so
Dameron?
yeah, no thanks. So I'm also gonna go A plus. I don't know what else we can say about
James, you got some thinking to do.
it.
nah, dude. I knew exactly where I was going since episode 9. I knew where my grade was going to be, unless they fucked up 10, 11, 12, which they didn't do. Um,
Deidre's the
dude,
Emperor.
this this season, this show, totality of this show is an A fucking plus with all reactors firing in the Death Star, all of them.
All six?
Um,
Holy cow!
Set up the purple
all
beam.
sick. No guardrails, no guardrails for the technicians standing idly by. OSHA does not exist in the Star Wars universe. Yeah, man, this is inching, and at some point, I gotta sit down and look at all my favorite TV shows of all time. Lost, Supernatural, 24, um, and see where I put this show in that pantheon. But to me, this was the best product I've seen on Disney Plus. Period. And I'll throw in Loki season 2 on there as well. Um, it stands on its own on Disney Plus. Period. The only thing it's looking at is regular broadcast TV shows for comparison. And I don't mean
So
regular, I
this
mean
is
prestige.
this is what our first official peak TV, like
Oh shit!
triple A
All right,
plus
copyright that shit.
peak television.
Right.
Obviously, it's weird if you're listening to us and you haven't watched it, but I appreciate you anyway. Go watch it. Go watch it again if you've seen it. I'm definitely gonna watch this. Gonna watch it all the way through to the Rogue One. I think it really deserves that kind of another go through.
I'm doing that this weekend because my youngest hasn't seen 10, 11, 12 yet.
Nice.
Oh, all right. Send us their reaction. I'm curious. Eric,
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
So there it is, folks. It is the best TV of the year so far. Probably. We'll be reinvestigating all of our top picks by the end of the year. But
Mm-hmm.
so far, this has a top. That's the lead for me so far. I think it was so crisp, and it decided to do its own thing. It could have easily leaned into the fun the
More
fantasy,
family
the
oriented.
family friendly
Yeah.
fantasy
Family
elements of
friendly
Star Wars.
Easter egg, chalk up Easter egg Star Wars shit.
The
Right.
member berries.
as it got towards the this is the rebellion, we better do a cool like
Wait, hold on. May the Force be with you by Bail Organa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like
one
eye
yep.
roll by me.
I think it's okay. It's
But
just like
his
a
character
hint.
did say that throughout Revenge of the Sith and Rogue
Yeah,
One.
because he
And
knew
now
the
this one.
Jedi. Not too many of them left that knew the Jedi, right? So
Right, and you don't have Andor saying it back. He's still
yeah,
kind of just like
Keep your religion to yourself,
you're
buddy.
right.
he's still kind of trying to understand what these people are seeing and feeling, and he's not there
Oh,
yet.
you saw the Force healer at the end and during that montage.
That little nod that you're
Yeah, the
about to
only
die.
the interesting that they decided to take a moment to show Mon Mothma's husband.
Oh,
Yes,
with his mistress. Yeah.
No, it
with
was
his sister-in-law.
no, yeah, that someone
That's who that was,
I
Mike.
forget who was I watching today, and they said they have this theory that he used the what's her name's husband or the father-in-law or whatever the, the he used his he like turned him in, and that's how he stayed free. And so the two of
Mm.
them got together because as Mon Mothma left, he's obviously gonna get some.
Oh, he was the one. So the husband funded Mamatha and covered
Right.
the.
So by
Yes.
like basically turning in this gangster
Oh,
because
and
he
I
doesn't need them
believe that.
anymore.
I believe that because he is conniving, and all he
Yeah.
wants to do is drink, have sex. That's all he
Yeah.
wants. So
He's
But
yeah,
accustomed to his lifestyle.
we
yes.
didn't see the daughter. That was the only person I think I kind of wanted to see. Like I don't care, but I do.
Yeah, they
Like I
probably
wanted
left
to see her miserable in her marriage.
They
Maybe
probably went to Naboo, some vacation little spot. Naboo.
Yeah.
Oh shit! They probably went to Alderaan on a honeymoon.
Alderaan on vacation.
Oh damn.
The honeymoon we never got. Let's go to Alderaan. I heard it's nice this time of year.
I hear
What is
it's
that
nice this
second
time of
moon? Is
year.
that a second moon?
All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you for having this discussion with me. We may have another one, hopefully, with some
We
other
will.
people, but
We will.
I think this got out a lot of what I wanted to say, and I want you to come and tell us what you think of Andor and what you grade it and what you wanted. Like, what individual did we not get to see the last 10 seconds of? You know, what character were you like, oh, I really wanted to see what they are up to? Mike, where can people find us and tell us what they want us to know?
Yeah, as usual, all over the internet at Heroes Peak, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell to get notifications, and leave a comment below. Let us know what you thought of Andor Season 2.
Leave
All
a
right,
comment.
guys.
Leave a comment, and we might raffle off some free merchandise.
Ooh.
Might raffle off some free merchandise. So leave a comment. Leave a comment.
All right.
No purchase necessary.
Illegal in the 51st state.
That's right.
Tariffs not included.
All
All
right.
right. Have a good
Good
week.
night.
See you later.
Hey, Indigo made the beat.